So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this last 401k meeting. My name is Tori. I work in human resources. I'm one of the HR generalists along with Kelsey Spielman. She's on here too. She's going to take you through the VISTA process in a little bit. And then we also have Lisa in HR. I'm sure most of you know her. She does your onboarding. So any of the three of us are great resources for you if you ever have any questions. But we also want to introduce the other key players. So of course we have Susan Levi. She's our plan administrator. So she's a great resource as well. And then we also have the 4 trustees. We just like everyone to be aware of who they are. Some of them may be on this meeting, some may not, but those are Faye Boland, Kevin Boland, Matt Fazio, and Ryan Agona. And then also on here today, we have Katie Falcione from John Hancock. She'll be showing you some features on that site, and as well for current employees, there will be a requirement for everyone to go on there and update beneficiaries. So even if you're not new, she'll have some important information for you to do that. And then we have Tom Geisler and his team. They're our financial advisors. So they'll be helping the new enrollees, and also with that separate meeting next week that we'll be getting that invite out for educational purposes to really make sure you guys understand the plan and how to take advantage of it. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Susan to talk about some of the changes to our plan this enrollment.
Thank you, Tori. Good afternoon again, everybody, and thanks for coming to our last meeting for this enrollment period. I get to do the fun things, then everybody else can get into some of the details. A couple weeks ago, I sent an email around to everybody kind of outlining some of the new things that we were going to talk about at this enrollment session. The first one, as you heard earlier, is that beneficiaries will now be kept on the John Hancock website electronically. Currently, you probably filled out a paper form at some point, if you've been here for a while, that said who your beneficiary was. We are requiring for new staff as well as all veteran staff to go onto the John Hancock website and to update your beneficiary information, or to include your beneficiary information for the first time, because that is the only place that we are going to be keeping and housing that beneficiary information. It relates to your 401k plan, and that's where it should go. The other thing that's new is that new enrollees used to fill out a paper application to enroll in the 401k plan. No longer. We are doing that on the John Hancock website as well. So that's what Tom was talking about, where we're going to help you go through and get enrolled onto the website. And then we can talk about how, maybe what percentages you're thinking about contributing, and also what investments you're thinking about. So we can talk about all that at the second half of this meeting. Last year, we started the new process in VISTA, where you will actually choose what your contribution is going to be. So this is the opportunity to change it, keep it the same, increase it, whatever you want to do. So that process is going to be gone through, and that was only for staff that had been here and been on the plan that did VISTA, but it's now everyone. New enrollees will also put your information into VISTA, as well as the existing staff. So Kelsey's going to go through that detail with you for VISTA. So any questions, please, you can either unmute, raise your hand, or put things in chat, and I'm monitoring the chat so that we can make sure everybody's questions get answered. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so like Susan was saying, we're going to be doing our open enrollments through VISTA again. We did this last open enrollment back in July for everyone who's been here. So if you go into VISTA, this is the home page here that everyone should be familiar with. You go on the left-hand side under benefits. Usually you're brought to this benefits screen, top screen here, current enrollment. This is what you're currently enrolled in. If you're not sure, if you want to go check and see all of your elections. And then if you go to the top here, open enrollment, this is where you'll go. This will be open only for a short period of time. So this week, we actually are asking that you have this completed by Friday. And then if you want to make any changes, you're more than welcome to go in and make any changes up until next Friday. So December 9th, after that, it'll be closed for good. So if you go to this top wizard box right here, this will walk you through the process. So it's just a welcome screen here. There's the limits they did raise this year for 2023. And then the deadlines are down here. You go to next. This is what you're currently enrolled in. So right now, Jane's enrolled in Roth and traditional. If you go to next, you can click on each plan. So let's say if you want to raise your traditional contribution, let's say Jane wants to contribute 5% for her traditional contribution. Type in 5%, update selections, Roth percent, and do the same thing. If you want to remove this option, you can click remove. So we'll just leave Jane that. Make sure whatever you want elected is checked off. So make sure none of these are checked off if you're just staying at one plan. So we'll just leave her at 5%. If you look at the right-hand side up here at the top, this is a per pay contribution. So this is what you'll be paying per pay. And next down here, this is just like another confirmation page. And then next again, this is another screen here. The deadline, like I said, next Friday, December 9th. And then these two boxes will just, you can leave these checked. This will just pop up a confirmation page at the end, and then it'll also email you one. Then you'll hit OK. And then here's that confirmation page that you can print or save for your records. Other than that, we are asking new enrollments as well to make sure you walk through this wizard as well, just because that's how payroll will know what to take from your paychecks. So if you have any questions, though, just reach out to us. I mean, we can walk you through the process. It's not difficult. We're hoping it'll run pretty smoothly. And then Tori's gonna go over the plan highlights with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelsey. So I'm going to share my screen. And we just always like to talk about the plan highlights so that everyone understands the plan and kind of the great benefits that we offer here, so that you can really take advantage of those. So this was new for our July enrollment, but I just want to go over it one more time in case you missed those meetings. We did waive the 1 year of service requirement as well as the hours requirement, so that part-time employees as well as all new hires from these last 6 months are eligible to enroll for January 1st. So if you started from July 1st of this year up until now, you would be eligible to enroll starting January 1st of 2023. So that's exciting. There's less of a waiting period with that. The only eligibility requirement is that you have to be 21 years of age. And then I also like to go over the company match. So the Safe Harbor match, you're 100% vested in that company match, as well as your own salary deferrals right away. So there's no waiting period on that. You're 100% vested right away. And the company will match 100% of your contributions up to 3%, and then 50% up to 5%. So what that means is if you contribute 3, you'll be matched at 3. If you contribute 4, you'll be matched at 3.5. And then if you contribute 5 or more, you'll get the maximum match at 4%. So at times then DBA also makes discretionary matches. So these of course are not guaranteed, but they've been here for the past several years. I think they said at least 10 plus years. We've always been able to make additional discretionary matches of either 3% or 2 different 3% matches. So it could be up to 6 more percent. So like I said, not guaranteed, but it's a great feature to be enrolled in and get more money contributed to your retirement. And those are subject to a vesting schedule, and you can read the schedule here. I won't walk through each one with you, but the only time this really comes into play is when you leave the company. So a lot of people don't really understand what the vesting means. It just, if you would leave the company before you've been here for 6 years, then you would not get all of those discretionary matches. You would still get 100% of your own salary deferrals and your company matches, just not those discretionary matches. Those would be subject to these vesting schedules. So you would only get a certain percent depending how long you've been here. And then we just have a few more things that we like to go over as well. So you do have 2 opportunities each year to change your enrollment. So that's always January 1st and July 1st. So for any current employees, it's really a good time to take advantage if you want to make any changes. And Katie will talk about this more, but it's, you know, a good time right now if you want to change your enrollments to think about, make changes to pre-tax Roth. You could do a combination, but it is one of your 2 chances. So it's a good opportunity if you want to make changes. You can also change your investment allocations with John Hancock at any point in time, but you can't do it more than twice a month. So, and then the last thing we wanted to mention, as Kelsey alluded to, the maximum employee deferrals for 2023 have increased. So it's now 22,500 that you can contribute. It's up from 20,500. And then if you're age 50 or older, you're also eligible for catch-up contributions up to 7,500, and that also increased for 2023. It was previously 6,500. So you could have a total of 30,000 that you're able to contribute to the plan if you're 50 or older. So that's it. We just like to kind of highlight some of the benefits as well, make sure you understand and can take advantage of that. And then I'll pass it on to Katie to talk about some of the reasons why you should participate and how you can go about enrolling.
Thank you, Tori. Okay, I'll go ahead and share my screen with everybody and make sure that it's showing up. There we go. Let's change this view. Okay. So hi, everybody. I work with John Hancock, and my primary role is to make sure that you understand all the features of this benefit and the ins and outs of why it's important for you to take advantage of it. Also, to show you how easy it is to get involved with the plan and all your options around that. It's an incredibly flexible benefit, and it's also a really generous benefit that your employer is offering you. So the first thing I'll put out there is that to get started, you're going to need to jot down the 2 numbers you see here on my screen. 96672 is a plan contract number. That's basically an account number that refers to Donnelly Boland's plan at John Hancock. So you'll be asked for that when you fill out paperwork or when you first call participant services for help with your account and so forth. The second number here is only for people who are brand new. So not if you are just changing the amount you're contributing, but if you are newly eligible to join the plan and you've never sent payroll contributions in before. That's called the enrollment access number. It's 088092. Everybody has that same number. So that's a number that helps you unlock the enrollment tool online or using the app so that you can sign up for your original selections. So we'll walk through that and I'll show you a demo of what that looks like in just a bit. But first I want to visit with you about some other important information. When you do set up a user ID for our website, when you eventually go in and you set up your account access, pick a username that's totally unique to you and unique to this account. So something that nobody knows you by, not your Instagram handle or your TikTok handle, but something that is completely unused by you before. The second thing you have to do is make sure you create a strong password. We've built that into our registration process, so that's easy to set up. And we'll ask for a mobile phone number, and it's imperative that you put that in because that will help us verify you. So it gives us an extra layer of security on your account. We're not going to be texting you spam. It's really so that we can ensure if we see activity come into your account from someplace we don't recognize or a device we've not seen before, we can quick text you a code to your approved device and make sure that it's you. So we're doing everything we can to prevent any kind of hacking or any kind of hackers to get into your account. And there's a portion of that that you can help with. Pardon me. I'm definitely getting near the end of the day. The last thing is security questions. You'll be asked to set up things like mother's maiden name or the first car you ever drove, stuff like that. We use those primarily when you call participant services so that we can quiz you on your identity that way too. So lots of security features associated with your account. Your first step is going to be enrollment, but in order to get to the enrollment tool, you'll have to start the registration process online using the numbers that I mentioned earlier, especially the contract number. When you visit myplan.johnhancock.com or when you download the app, and you can do that from the App Store or the Google Play Store by searching John Hancock Retirement, they'll ask you for some data. So they want your first and last name, they want your last name, your social security number, and your date of birth. This is information we may not have for you yet in our system because what happens is as soon as you enter the amount you want to contribute, Kelsey puts that information in the system for us. So what we've given you here on this page, when you see it in the process, is a link to get in and enroll first. So you'll see this link here, right over here on the right, next to where it says enrollment access number, it says click here. So as soon as you see this message, click there. And then that will take you to our enrollment tool, which I'll show you in just a bit. That's going to enable you to make your decision about how much you want to put in, also which investments you want to utilize. And then it's super important that you go to your Vista program and enter the amount you want to come out of your paycheck, just like Kelsey was just showing you. Because what John Hancock can do is set you up with your investment selections, and we can set you up with an initial record of what you want to be putting in, but we can't actually take it out of your paycheck. So only Vista can do that, and only HR can do that. So we need you to commit that information to Vista as well. Once you are enrolled in the plan and you've set up your decisions about which investments you want to use and so forth, then you'll be able to come back to the website and fully register, because your information will have been entered during that time. So why would you be doing all of this? Saving for retirement is something that all Americans need to be thinking more about right now. We've got a retirement crisis on our hands. So we have a lot of people out there who should be saving and are not. This means that there's going to be additional stress. So sorry, I can't clear it. I've got a frog. Sorry, guys, hang on. Figures for the one that Tori's recording, right? So the point of saving for retirement is to pay your bills in the future. Your paycheck that you pull from work right now pays for all of your goods and services. It pays for your lifestyle. One day, you're not going to be able to collect that regular paycheck anymore. Ideally, you want to schedule that train into the station instead of getting hit by it. You want to put together a retirement that you see as something you want, as opposed to something that just kind of sneaks up on you and you fall into. Sometimes people get injured. Sometimes there are health aspects that run into their lives where they have to stop working. But ideally, the point of saving for retirement is to give you options and choices around what happens in that next chapter of your life, which, by the way, could last for 20 to 30 years after you stop working. Right now, we know that inflation is on the rise. Inflation eats up the buying power of our dollars. And we all know this because anybody who's bought gas in the last several months or has tried to go to the grocery store, even the same grocery store you may have been going to for years, you'll find it's more and more expensive. But inflation doesn't just eat away the buying power of your current dollars. It eats away at the dollars that are going to be for your retirement. So all those groceries you need to buy in the future after you stop working when you're in your late 60s to 70s, and all those medical appointments and all of that gas you have to buy to keep getting around is going to get more expensive. That's why it's so important to start saving now. It's also why your employer puts together this great benefit and offers you a really generous match to give you a leg up toward that retirement that you want. So where we refer to retirement as a dream, what we mean is ask yourself what you want to be doing. Ideally, how would you design it? How would you design your lifestyle then? What would be the perfect idea of a way to stop working and continue on into that next chapter for you? And then what will help you do is turn that dream into a plan and create good habits that are easy to keep up with, that day to day you can keep doing almost in a way that you're not thinking about it anymore, so that that money can continue to grow and then support you in the future. So when you're thinking about retirement, the big question is, how am I going to have enough money to get there? Many people ask this question every day, and they're cobbling together income from different resources. So where the 401k has definitely become the most popular tool to save for investing for retirement, mainly because of all its flexibility, and also, not surprisingly, because some employers are more generous than others and offer an incredible match to go along with your own savings. Other people are also cobbling together income sources from things like what they've paid down on their mortgage, or maybe they have some sort of inheritance from relatives. Pension plans, such as what used to exist, where you had these kind of big behemoth plans sponsored by giant companies that people had loyalty for, 30 years or so with. Somebody plugged in and stayed in that one spot for 30 years, then collected a fixed income off that pension plan. Those don't occur very much anymore. They're not nimble. They're not easy to manage. They tend to administratively be very expensive, so they're not as popular. And they don't give participants as much choice. So sometimes you don't get as much control over what happens in your money in those plans. Social Security is still out there. So it's still replacing about 40% of the average person's income in retirement. So ask yourself, if I were to retire today and I collected Social Security and I could get 40% of what I currently make, what would my day-to-day look like? How would I be able to meet my expenses? It's never been designed to completely furnish or refurnish all of your income. Social Security was created to keep people out of poverty, and that was it. But what happened is over time, we started to really rely on Social Security as our primary source of fixed income. If you visit the SSA.gov website and you check out how much you stand to pull from Social Security, you'll find that it normally would benefit you a lot to wait as long as you possibly can. You can make quite a bit more money off your Social Security if you wait. So putting together other resources for yourself is extremely important. And what the 401k does is it gives you an easy way of doing that. So each and every payroll, your money goes directly from your paycheck to the tune of whatever percentage you have opted in, and it rolls right into an account for you. So it's interesting, Vista calls it a cost. It calculates the total cost to you per paycheck, but cost is kind of a tough word. It's really more the savings. That's the savings that you're putting aside for yourself. This is your money. Nobody takes it from you. It's an easy way to put money away. So as far as the ways that you can choose to put it away out of your paycheck, you get two methods here. So Tori mentioned these as well. The first method is pre-tax. Pre-tax savings means that you don't pay taxes on the contributions or any of the earnings that result until you take the money back out for income. So the assumption is for most Americans, that will be way into the future when they're closer to retirement. They could be working less hours by then, and hence they could be in a lower income tax bracket. So even if taxes are on the rise for everyone, proportionally, they may end up paying less in taxes that way. However, it also means that you're lowering the amount of your taxable income every year. So the money you put in this plan no longer gets reported on your taxes. You could also get a credit, a tax credit for contributing to your 401k up to a point. So there are a lot of benefits to pre-tax savings. But the other way you can contribute, because there are some people out there who might say, I'm in a pretty low tax bracket right now. What if I could pay the taxes now, get them out of the way at this low tax value that I'm in, or this tax bracket that I'm in now, and then I don't have to worry about it later. That's what the Roth 401k is for. So in particular, if you're younger and you're just starting out, you're at this lower income threshold and you're expecting that to go up and up and up over the next, let's say 20 or 30 years, the Roth means that you are driving through the tax toll booth early and you're saying, I'm just going to pay Uncle Sam now, and then he won't bother me later. So as long as the money stays invested for at least 5 years, then what the IRS says is you can take it out later tax-free, not just the dollars that you put in that you already paid taxes on, but the earnings. So the real kicker with the Roth is for all those earnings that can accumulate in your account over time that would come out eventually tax-free and make up a tax-free portion of your nest egg. And you're not stuck with either or. You can do a combination of both. Some people like to give themselves flexibility when they go to retirement. So they put a little bit in pre-tax and a little bit in after-tax because they're not really sure where their tax rate's going to go. So they hedge that a little bit. All the IRS says is just don't go over our limit. So we set a ceiling of $22,500 for next year for anybody under 50. If you're 50 or older, that ceiling goes up to $30,000 because you get that catch-up contribution. If you're somebody who hasn't been saving for retirement as long as you know you should have, that's why it's called a catch-up. So it's to give you the benefit of making up for lost time. But you can couple these. And in addition, we talked about the match. The match goes in pre-tax. So that's the only thing the IRS won't let us put in Roth. They say you can't pay taxes on your employer's dollars early. But so even if you're putting money in Roth, you're still going to accumulate a balance on the pre-tax side of your account. It's kind of like looking at a bucket with two sides, a pre-tax side and an after-tax side. You can put your dollars in on either side, but your employer has to drop the money in on the pre-tax side for you. Compound earnings refers to how this money grows over time and how it participates in the market. So when you put money in your 401k and your savings plan, you're investing, and you're investing in funds that invest in the market. So there are all sorts of different funds offered in your plan, and we'll talk about the menu and what your options are. But one of the things to keep in mind is that in addition to how advantageous your match is, the idea of growing your money through compound earnings has been around for ages. Albert Einstein actually called it the eighth wonder of the world. What you're looking at here is an example of two individuals who both have the same salary, believe it or not. They both have a 5% average return, and they both started out with 8% deferral rate pre-tax. But the big difference here between the person who ended up with $330,000 in change and the person who ended up with just short of $160,000 is the person represented on top by that blue line bumped up their contribution as a good habit every year for only the first 5 years, not for the whole time, only for the first 5 years. And because of that additional 1% coming out of their paycheck annually, which is not going to sting very much when extra 1% is something most people won't feel, especially at the end of the year. Because of that additional 1% growing, they ended up with more income. And that's the kind of good habit you can put in place for yourself. So if you're already participating in the plan and you're not sure if you want to bump up what you're putting in, one rule I always had was if I don't know how much I'm putting in, then it's time for me to bump it up, because it means I haven't touched it in a long time. And that probably means that the IRS has raised the amount I'm allowed to save, and it probably means I haven't benefited fully from my match. So to get to the full match, remember, you got to get to 5% initially to get the full match. But if you can only put in 3% to collect the first 3% match, that's okay too. Tell yourself, I'm going to come back in July, I'm going to bump it up by 1%. And then I'll come back again next December and I'll bump it up by another 1%. Make it easy for yourself. Either way, compound earnings are a way of partnering with long-term savings. And that's why 401ks have become so popular for retirement, because retirement in and of itself is a long-term project. This isn't something that any of us puts together overnight. So again, pre-tax means you don't pay your taxes till later. Roth means you pay them now. So you're going to feel it a little more in your take-home pay. That tax money comes out right away. But it also means that later on, you benefit the most because you don't get taxed later on any other earnings either. So you can do either one. It's really not an investment decision so much as it is a tax planning decision. And you're always able to change. So just like twice a year, you can change your deferral amount. You can also change whether you're using Roth or pre-tax. So there's that flexibility built in twice per year. So first off, your mission is figure out how much you want to contribute. We've got some calculators available in our enrollment tool to help you figure out, given what level of income you want to achieve in retirement, how much you want to keep paying yourself through those years, what percentage might make sense for you. And remember, this money comes out of payroll. So it's very easy. Once you've set it up, you can watch on your statements to see how much is coming out. You can revisit your benefit page to be aware of that as well. And the IRS does bump up the limits almost every year. This year it was nice. They gave us an extra pump in the limit. When you are in the plan, the way that you figure out if you're tracking well to your goal is by using some of the tools we offer. So we have a great retirement action plan available. This is a way to put together a living, breathing plan for your retirement. It's really easy to use, and you can add outside income sources in there too. So we can continue to give you a score every time you log on to our website or our app that says, basically, here's how close you are to achieving your goal. And the score, if any of you are already in the plan and have seen that, represents the percentage of future expenses you're likely to be able to cover. And we track that through your retirement years. We don't just stop when you quit working. So it looks at not just your retirement age at 65, but it looks at beyond that, because your retirement plan expenses as you age are going to change. More physical therapy appointments, more medications, maybe less travel as you age and your body starts to kind of break down a little bit. So figuring out how much you want to pay yourself in retirement isn't just about figuring out kind of what's that pie in the sky number that I want to save or the number I want to achieve. $2 million might sound like a lot of money to you, but if you look at 30 years time and all the money you're going to spend in retirement, it may dry up sooner than you think. So getting started early and starting to put together this plan will put you in a much better spot. And I want to mention too, before we get to the investment section, you don't have to be an expert in any of this. You don't have to be a portfolio manager in your spare time. You do not have to read the Wall Street Journal or read Forbes magazine to be good at saving in a 401k. There are so many options available with services built into not just the investments, but built into your plan where you have expertise that you can utilize and that you can take advantage of to help you. So I don't consider myself a full expert on investing, even though I've been in it for a long time. There are professionally managed options in your plan that are offered, just like there are in my 401k plan with John Hancock. And you can take advantage of those if you don't feel like you want to learn it all and do it all yourself. So as far as the investments in the plan, it's important to remember that there's risk built into every investment option. So when you invest this money, when you put this money in the plan, you are investing in the markets. That means that you're privy to some of the movement of the market. Right now, the market is down. It's been down for a while, but it was up for like 10 to 12 years where we were really spoiled by a crazy good bull market. And so we kind of expected this to happen. The market has to reset every now and again. When it does, there are opportunities there. So one of the nice things about investing in a 401k plan is that because the money comes out of each and every payroll, nobody's ringing you up when the market goes down one day and saying, hey, are you sure you want to put your money in today? That's a good thing, because that means you're emotionally removed from that process. When your money invests in the market, even when it's down, it means that on a day when those shares or those pieces of the market are down, you're purchasing more of that investment because it's on sale. And that means that you're putting more shares in your portfolio, where when the market rebounds and comes back and those shares go back up, you've got more shares to benefit from that change. So that's called dollar cost averaging, and it's how a 401k can really position you over time to take advantage of some of those market cyclical times. So the risk of an investment depends on how volatile it is, and that is to say, how much does its value bounce around over time, or how unpredictable is the value. So you have some investments in your plan that are more volatile, that offer kind of a rockier ride, but at the same time, historically, those are the very investments that have achieved the highest average returns. So more risk has equaled more reward traditionally in the market. If you have a stomach that can't take that, and you consider yourself more conservative, and you don't want as much volatility built into your portfolio, then there are more stable, slow moving investments that you can take advantage of, which won't have the highest average returns, but they will offer you more stability and more predictability. When you're investing in these funds, the money is then invested in turn into things like cash or cash equivalents, the lowest end of volatility, the most stable you can get, bonds, which have a little bit more volatility built in because they're tied to interest rates, and then stocks, which have the most volatility. But even within stocks, bonds, and cash, there are all sorts of different funds offered that are kind of different types. So a couple things to keep in mind. When you're investing, one of the principal rules is to stay diversified. That's just a fancy way of saying don't put all your eggs in one basket. I could consider myself an aggressive growth investor, but if I build a portfolio of incredibly racy stocks or incredibly racy funds, then when those particular funds are out of favor, everything I have in that basket is going to go down at the same time, which won't necessarily benefit me. If I have different types of investments that behave differently in response to the same market events, then I have a better chance of some staying power in that portfolio. It also means that over the long term, the volatility, the riskiness in my portfolio will start to level off a little bit, because a down period in one type of investment can be offset by a gain in another that's doing in an area that's doing well. So asset allocation just means how much are you putting, literally how much of your assets are you allocating to each area? So what percentage are you putting where? Every time you invest a paycheck, that paycheck is split up into different investments that you choose. And you get to choose those percentages, or you can choose a collection of percentages that's kind of a pre-baked portfolio that's already been set up with a specific goal. So 3 paths that you might choose. If you're somebody who says, this stuff just goes like this. This is all Greek to me. I'm terribly intimidated by this. I know I'm really worried about where this will go. I know I won't keep track of it. I'm not knowledgeable about these things, or I don't want to be. There are professionally managed options offered in your plan where you don't have to do really any of the work. So you can say, I am 50 years old. I'm going to retire around X year. This is the portfolio I want that targets that year. And I want my investments to behave in a way that is expected for that age group, okay? So that's called the target date portfolio. That's an incredibly popular way to invest in a 401k plan, because so many people are busy with their careers and doing what they do every day, and they don't have time to watch the market and learn about all this stuff. You also have a medium level of involvement, which is called a target risk fund. So it has some things in common with target date. It's also professionally managed. All the funds are selected for you in advance. But the difference here is, instead of getting more conservative over time and targeting a certain date for retirement, a target risk fund is going to stay within a characteristic risk profile. So there are 5 of them. There's an aggressive model, there's a growth model, a balanced model in the middle, a moderate model, and a conservative model at the most stable end. So if you're in one of the target risk funds, let's say you're a growth investor and it has 80% going to stock funds and 20% going to fixed income or bond funds. If you look at it 20 years down the road, it's going to look about the same, 80-20. And the reason for that is they're trying to keep you within the guardrails of that particular risk profile until you make a change. So target date funds, very different. Over time, they're going to slowly glide to a more conservative stance. So I might start off with much more money in stocks in a target date fund when I first start out. But as I get to be about 25 years away from retirement, that portfolio manager is going to start to lift their foot off the gas pedal and change out of the more aggressive investments and start to build up my exposure in that portfolio and buy more of the investments that are more stable so that they can start to kind of put the brakes on as I approach retirement. Both very valid ways of investing in the plan, neither better than the other, just different. So if target date funds are do everything for me, then target risk funds are give me a little hand, help me do this. Then there's the high level of involvement. So for those of you that are accustomed to investing, or maybe you like this stuff, or maybe you have some experience, or you work with somebody on the side, or maybe your spouse is into this stuff, there are a selection of different funds offered to you in all different areas of the market: aggressive, growth, moderate, fixed income, everything, where you can use those as your building blocks to put together a custom portfolio of your own. And any one of these ways, you can make changes on our website or our app up to 2 calendar dates per month. So you're never locked in to any one approach. And as I mentioned, just like there are services offered in the funds, such as the professional portfolio management that comes with those target approaches, you also have Tom's group to help you look at the different funds as well. So even if you are a do-it-yourselfer, if you say, hey, can you look over my allocation, just make sure I'm invested in an appropriate fashion, that's fine. That's what their expertise is there to help you with. So that's what I mean when I say there's no shortage of assistance available to you. I'm going to switch pages here and just show you guys a page that represents your fund lineup so that you can see some of these investment options that you have access to. So let's change pages here. The piece I'm going to show you now is called the 404A5, and this is available to you in the enrollment tool when you enroll, but it's also always available on your website. We also have an HTML version of this list, but this just shows you the expanse of different funds available in your plan. You have aggressive funds listed here in red. This shows you our color coding system for all the investments offered. Any red funds are going to be considered aggressive. That's that racier side of the market with more volatility built in. Then you have the growth section in orange, and there's a key here at the bottom of each page. Then if you go down, you'll see we have yellow funds are growth and income. We have the income funds are the bond funds in green. You've got these light blue options to designate those professionally managed styles of portfolio. So we have a target date fund selection here. You can see they run from 2065, which would be the most aggressive option. That assumes you're retiring and you're going to be 67 years old, somewhere around the year 2065. And then it goes all the way down to the most conservative option, which would be the 2010 portfolio, which of course already passed. So that assumes you're older. Then you've got your lifestyle funds listed below. Those are the risk-based options. But if you look here, this is a picture of what the multi-manager lifetime portfolio would do for the year 2045. And this gives you a good idea of how that portfolio shifts and changes over time. So this rebalancing, this change happens automatically. It's a built-in process known as a glide path. And it's basically the instruction manual that portfolio manager is following for lowering your risk over time. And you can see right through retirement date, it keeps going. It doesn't just go to zero. And there are some approaches out there that will do that. What's offered in your plan is called the through approach, mainly because if you look here, you've got up to 25 years after retirement where you still need your money to compete with inflation. So if you just go to zero and bury your money in a mason jar out in the backyard, you've still got 25 years of inflation to contend with. So this assumes you're still going to want some market exposure to continue growing your dollars. But as I mentioned, you can do any combination of these things. The target risk fund that's considered your plan's default fund is the balanced portfolio. So if we look here at the holdings for that, you've got a selection of different John Hancock funds built in here. And this shows you the asset allocation model, how much goes to each for the top 10. Also shows you what countries they invest in, what business sectors. So fact sheets like this are available. As soon as you look at this piece, you'll see a link below each. Your links will be active in your PDF and on the website. So you can look up information on any of these. You can also see returns and expenses for each investment option. And this is really easy to compare. So you can look at side-by-side comparisons here. So any combination, it's really up to you how you invest, and you can make changes along the way. So you're never stuck with any one investment style. But try to be honest with yourself about how much you want to do on your own. A lot of times we see participants get involved and they get real excited about picking something that's customized, and then they kind of leave it alone and they don't look as often as they should. If you are picking your own funds, you have to be a little bit more tuned into what's going on with the market, and also make changes as your life changes or as your goals change. Not as the market changes necessarily, because remember, timing the market, trying to decide which investments are going to be the best each year is almost impossible for anybody to do, even professionals. Trying to guess at which funds are going to come out on top is a tricky business. So that's where we talk about diversification again. Another piece I wanted to mention before I go over to the demo is that in the enrollment tool, you're going to be asked, do you have any other outside plans that you might want to roll in or combine? What they're referring to is old jobs, old companies where you might have had a benefit there, or a 401k plan that you were participating in for a little while. You might have as little as $200 in there. But if you ever want to roll it in, you can. There's no time limit on that. Sometimes it's beneficial to combine your old assets just so that you can be more organized and keep all your money in one place. But sometimes there's a timing issue involved where it might benefit you more to wait. So, and it might be a question of whether that account is even combinable with a 401k. So Tom's team stands ready to help you with that and to look at those other accounts, but our team also stands ready to complete the paperwork with you and make that easy. So this is our consolidation team. If you're already in the plan and you've wondered about this and you've been putting it off, don't let the paperwork be a reason why you don't do this, because that's the part that we're good at.
Katie, we do have one question in the chat.
Sure.
Is the tax amount always 10%, or does that fluctuate like the limits, or is it based on the market?
So the tax amount, I think what you're referring to with the 10% is the penalty. When you get taxed on your 401k money, when it comes out one day, if you've set aside money pre-tax and the money comes out and you pay your taxes, you pay whatever rate you're in at this stage of withdrawal. So if I am 71 years old and I'm in a certain tax bracket and I take out my 401k money finally and start using it for income, I'm going to pay my tax bracket at that time. The 10% refers to a penalty that's incurred if you take the money out and spend it prior to retirement and prior to the age of 59 and a half specifically. So if you take money out before 59 and a half in a 401k plan, let's say for reasons of termination, you change jobs, right? So you leave Donnelly Bolin, you want to take your 401k balance and you want to take it and spend it, okay? Instead of moving it to a new employer's plan. If you spend your retirement funds early, the IRS takes an extra 10%, and that amount does not typically change or fluctuate with inflation. So they've left it at 10% for as long as I can remember. And that's what they take because they figure we gave you all these tax advantages for you to save this money for retirement. Now you're spending it on Aruba next year. That wasn't really part of the deal here. So now we're going to take extra. So they take the opportunity to collect more tax. So for that reason, and I'm glad you asked, it's not usually beneficial to spend your retirement funds early. You have to remember when you're putting this money away, it's not a traditional savings account. It's not a bank account. So this money is supposed to be in a vault for you to save for retirement so that one day when you get to retirement, you turn around and there it is, and you've got something to sustain your lifestyle. That's why it's a slow build process. And if you do run into a situation in your life where you've got a big bump in the road, something that constitutes what we call a financial hardship, like let's say you need to purchase a home and this is the only place you can get the down payment together from. That constitutes something called a financial hardship. You can dip into your plan to take that money out early before retirement, but just because they call it a hardship doesn't mean the IRS isn't going to come in and say, well, how old is that person? If you're under 59 and a half, they're still going to take 10%, but it does mean you can unlock the vault, if you will, and get your money out. There are other reasons that apply to financial hardship, like something like a surgical cost or a hospital bill, something health related, preventing eviction from your home, tuition expenses for a dependent or for yourself to go to college, Funeral or bereavement costs too is a big one because that comes up very suddenly and it's expensive. Can be a really big price tag. And you have to remember, if you take the money out when you transfer jobs, this money is in a suitcase, but you don't have to spend it. You don't have to take the taxes. You can actually move it to another qualified plan. So typically you can roll it into a new employer's plan. Even before you're eligible to contribute new money to that plan, they'll usually take a rollover, or you can put it in an IRA rollover account. So it's a long answer for your 10% question, but I hope it covers it.
And we have one other question. It's kind of a long one, but it is said that if the market is down, you should stay the course so that you don't switch and experience significant losses because the market is down. I am in an aggressive fund, but at age 60 would like to modify to a less risky fund choice. However, given the first rule of thumb I stated, I am concerned to do so during a down market. Is there a general thought or rule to apply to making this decision?
So you're rightfully concerned because it's tough looking at those aggressive numbers right now. And I think I'll ask Tom to chime in on this one as well. One thing you always have the option of doing is changing your allocation for new money coming into the plan so that anything new you invest goes into a more conservative option, but so that your current nest egg of all the dollars you've already saved in those aggressive investments has a chance to recover before you move it. The problem with changing investments when the market is at the lowest stages and we don't know when the bottom's going to hit, nobody unfortunately tells us that, is that you have locked in your losses, as you mentioned. So you have purchased higher and sold lower, which is the opposite of what we want to have happen when we invest. We want to buy low and sell high. So there's a difference between being down, as you are now on paper, and being down with your hands tied, which would be what would happen if you sold, because then you've locked in your losses, as you mentioned, and then you have the added challenge of figuring out, well, when is it safe to get back in? And the reality is the best performing days of the market happen on only a handful of days over a long stretch of time. And most people don't know when those are and they miss them. So if you even miss over a 20-year period, if you miss the top like 10 performing best days, you can miss out on 80% of your recovery or more. So it's important to let things normalize and stabilize before you go and retool your whole portfolio. That said, being that you're 60, yeah, you should, I'm so glad you're asking the question. I'm glad you're paying attention to this. I would tell you to set aside time and talk to Tom and his group, let them look at what you're in and give you some guidance on where to go from here.
Great advice, Katie. I think that one other thing that you want to start thinking about when you're 60 is that distribution strategies are different than accumulation strategies. So this is a great plan for accumulation strategies. And you even do have a distribution strategy on here because they have selected an option where they can have 5% retirement income because of John Hancock's plan. So you might think about that strategy, or you might think about what they call the bucket strategy, where you get 3 different buckets. One that's a near-term bucket where you have money that can't go up and down very much for the near future, and then one that's a little bit more aggressive with a rate of return like bonds, and then maybe one that's a long-term portion. So we could discuss those strategies whenever you would like on that.
Yeah, and very important to revisit your risk profile. For those of you already in the plan, revisit your risk profile at least once a year, if not twice. And we have a risk quiz offered on our website that you can take to just kind of tell if you should be changing how you're investing. The problem with the bull market is people got pretty comfortable. And that's what happens. We love seeing those high numbers on our statements and we think, oh, wow, everything's great. I must be a genius. I picked all these great investments. Look how well they're doing, right? But what happens is as soon as the market does what it does and it quick corrects itself, and it happens so quickly, is, all of a sudden people realize, ooh, wait a minute, how old am I? What am I doing? And that's why it's important every year to visit your risk profile and say, should I be adjusting how I invest now? So kind of wipe the slate clean, forget everything you knew last year. Don't look at last year's returns, take the risk quiz and say, okay, given what I show on my risk quiz now, it says that I've changed a little bit, and then implement those changes, hopefully while the market is doing more normal things. But yeah, we're in a situation right now where I can't give you advice, but I would not necessarily think it would be the smartest thing to go in and shift everything around yet, because you got to give yourself a chance to rebound. And that rebound can happen quickly. Even in 2008, when we saw the market take a deep dive and everything was down at the same time, the recovery didn't take very long. So recoveries don't always last as long as bear markets. Sometimes they take less time. Okay, I'm going to jump on over to the website now so you guys can see why you would need this contract number and enrollment access number and what this looks like to you online. As I mentioned, there are some special things to keep in mind here when you're using the tools that we offer. And part of this has to do with your census information or your personal data getting into our system to give you a smooth experience here. So if you choose to use the mobile app, you can use that, and this is what your experience will look like. Your first place that you'll go is the Register Now button, and it's the same thing on the website. You'll go here to myplan.jhancock.com, and you'll click on Register Now. And this is where we're going to ask you for some data. So last name, social, and date of birth. When you click Continue, it's then going to ask you for your plan's contract number, 96672. And once you've entered that in, this is where you might see that error page that we referenced before. If you get an error page, instead of the section that says create your profile, use the link on that error page that's provided to go directly to the enrollment tool, okay? As long as you go directly to the enrollment tool, you'll be able to sign up anyway. Then you can come back to the full website or to the app and you can register for your access later. There's no money in there yet, so there's really nothing to see, but it will give you a chance to set up your username and your profile and to be verified through your mobile access number. So I'm going to show you what the registration looks like here, and then I'll flip over to show you what the enrollment tool looks like. So as I mentioned, you can create your user ID. You can check to see if the user ID is available or if someone else is using it at John Hancock. Then you can put in whatever password you like as long as it fits our conventions. Throw an email in there, make sure to confirm it by typing it twice, and then you'll have a spot to put in your mobile phone number. And here's what those challenge questions will look like, although your list will be specific. I have kind of basic question 1, 2, or 3 in my demo. You'll have actual questions you can choose from just for security feature answers. And then you'll get to your confirmation page. You can click the box at the bottom after you've read through the terms and conditions for the website and click continue and done. And then you'll see your congratulatory message. So if your information was already in the system, you will have been able to do this right away and you can click enroll now. If it wasn't, you can come back to it later. But when you click that link on that error page, it's going to bring you here to the enrollment tool. So we give you a back door to get in and take care of enrollment, even if your data is not in our system yet. So here's where you'll put first and last name, then you put contract number on the left, and that enrollment access number for your plan will go on the right, and you'll click Let's Go. And the enrollment tool offers you 2 experiences. Depends how much time you have and what type of enrollment you want. The Express experience takes 60 seconds, but it's kind of narrow. You can only choose pre-tax savings here. And what we'll do is calculate 3 packages for you that you can select from. So in other words, 3 contribution amounts that will fit anywhere from 80% to 100% of replacement income for you. So I typed in an annual salary here of $41,000 and change. So what they've done here is they've calculated 3 amounts. The low amount would replace 80% of that salary in retirement. The high amount would replace 100%. And then you can see, as far as investment instructions, they've already allocated me to my plan's default fund here. So yours would allocate you to your plan's default fund, which is that balanced risk strategy. You can always come online and change that later. So this is a quick way of getting enrolled. It's a quick way of making sure, number one, that you're taking full advantage of your match. So any one of the percentages that you see is going to top out over 5% so that you can take full advantage of your company's match. But also it's going to make sure that you are staying under the IRS limits and that you're replacing a certain portion of your income to track to a good retirement. If you choose instead to be a little more particular and you want some pre-tax and some after-tax, or maybe you want just Roth contributions to come out of your paycheck, and if you also want to look at all the investment options offered, you can go ahead and choose the guided path. It's not long by any means, so it takes about 7 or 8 minutes on average for someone to complete, but it offers you a little more flexibility. We'll ask you some more information up front here, and then we'll give you a goal for retirement. So what we do is show you what type of income you might aim for in retirement to replace. And you can either select the profile we've suggested here, or you can choose from a selection of them. You can aim higher if you like. And so if I click, for instance, the $45,000 a year profile, they're going to do the math for me and show me what it would take contribution wise for me to track to that goal. So I can choose to leave this percentage in here, or I can adjust it. And as you can see in the guided path, I can do pre-tax or I can do Roth after tax. So let's say I want 12%, and I'll go ahead with their suggestion there, but I want to split it up. I can do that. You can put whatever number you like in these boxes. Remember, your employer match money is going in on top of this, and it doesn't affect the IRS totals, but it'll go in pre-tax. So they're not going to show that on here because that comes in after the fact. This is just referring to your contributions. Okay.
Can you
If
go
you-
back to the page of before you got to this page?
Mhm.
When it was asked, no, that's not what I saw either. When it was asking like about how much you have in other, do you see
Other
my question in the
savings?
chat?
Yes. Oh, I didn't. I
This
can't see
part
the
right
chat
here.
because my meeting function doesn't let me see chats.
Oh,
So yeah, this
the
part right here where it
retirement
talks about
savings portion.
other retirement savings. Yeah. So
Mhm.
what that's for is, let's say I worked somewhere else for like 8 years and I was a participant in their 401k plan. Okay. And before I came to Donnelly Boland, I saved, let's say $50,000 in that plan. I could enter that I already have $50,000 to start off with in retirement. So the reason they ask for this information is because they want to give you a good calculation for how much you need to contribute from here on out to meet your goal. So it helps them understand what you're working with number wise. So you put in your salary, you put in how much savings you already have, and then we calculate from here forward how much paycheck to paycheck you might consider putting in. Does that make sense?
Is there any way to bypass that if you don't have all the information? Cause like
Yeah.
I have, so this is
You-
what I put in the chat. I said, I'm
Sure.
stuck on the enrollment stuff because I only know the amounts from the county employment, but not my past state employment.
Mhm.
How can I continue the enrollment process without that info?
You don't have to put it in. You can put in 0 if you want, or you can just do a loose estimate. All this does is help us massage the calculation below so that we can get you closer to a good figure to put in so that it's better than a guess. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Because
Okay.
if I see somebody and I say, oh, well, you know, she hasn't saved anything outside of, you know, what she's trying to save in this plan, then I'm going to tell you to put in more. Because if you haven't saved anything yet, you have to make up for that, you know, so you have to start putting in more of your paycheck now, right? But if I had somebody who already had $200,000 saved from someplace, then I'm going to tell them a lower percentage to get to that, because what I'm aiming for is this $45,000 a year, right? So I'm trying to get to a nest egg number that will allow them to pull that kind of income every year in retirement. So the way the math works out, if somebody has already saved more, they don't have to contribute as much, right? They're in a better position. Make sense? So
Yes, thank you.
the other thing you can use here that might be really helpful is underneath, where is it? Yeah, so underneath where it says choose this rate, see where it says I better try some different scenarios? If I click there, it opens up a calculator. And so what I can do is I can play around with, oh, I think if I paid myself, let's say $62,000 a year in retirement, this is going to show me the nest egg I need to accumulate. So this is kind of my target dollar value that I'm going for, that I'm trying to save toward. That's my goal. And then it shows me to get there, I need to contribute $59 per paycheck. So we're going to show you also below, how much does that mean I am saving in taxes, and what does that lower my paycheck by? You see what I mean? So the calculator can be really useful because we can show you the percentage over here and do the math. And then you can keep adjusting it. So once you enter in, you know, how much you want to contribute or how much you want to save toward, if you play with this little slide rule, it'll show, see how the math changes on the right? and it adjusts the percentage. So the math is never the fun part of this process. So that's why we give you all sorts of calculators. Okay. So once you have selected an amount that you're happy with, okay, then you can come in and you can select choose this rate. If you see this message about auto increase, I'm not sure if you guys do because I don't think you have online deferral changes enabled on your plan. But if you do see it, what that refers to is the ability to request a change every year, much like you are through Vista. But what it does is it sends through a message through the website that says that you're interested in making a change. But that's something I don't think is enabled for your plan yet because you guys use Vista to identify your deferrals going forward once you're in the plan. So when you click choose this rate, then it's going to say, okay, so you figured out how much to come out of your paycheck. Now you got to figure out which investments you want. And if you're somebody that says, you know what, I don't have time for that right now, or I just want the default fund, I'll go into that balance strategy. You can say, no, I'll review things later. We'll set you up with the amount that you asked for here. We'll set you up with the default investment instruction going to that balanced risk strategy, and then you can visit it later to make changes. If instead you want to look at all the investments offered by the plan, you can say yes, and then we'll show you your options. So these are those 3 paths I mentioned. This is the we'll do it for you on the left. This is the we'll help you do it in the middle. And then on the right is the I'll do it myself. Okay. So if I say I want to build my own portfolio, they give me one quick step where I can take a risk quiz down here so I can figure out, am I a conservative investor? Am I moderate? Am I aggressive? Where do I fall? And then we can make some suggestions to you for different models. But if I already know, like let's say I know I'm a balanced investor, I can select balanced. And then what they'll do is they'll give me my whole list of investments here to choose from. And I can come in and I can identify which funds I want and I can split them up. So with what I'm identifying here with my percentages is how I want my paycheck divided amongst these different investments every time it comes out of my check and goes into my account. So every paycheck that flows from your payroll to John Hancock, we take in the money and say, okay, she wants 25% to go to this Fidelity. She wants, let's say, 25% to go to Vanguard, this fund, and so forth. So again, this is also a spot where you can learn about the different funds because you can click on the link to learn about them. And this is not an allocation suggestion. I'm obligated to tell you guys that. It's just an example. But we'll show you your risk profile as a result of the funds you're choosing up here. And you've got your target date funds and your target risk funds there too. I can say select these options. And then when I'm ready, I can come forward and go to the next step. The next step is to determine whether or not I want to roll anything over from my old retirement accounts. So again, if I worked somewhere else or if I had an IRA at some point and I wanted to roll it in, I can say, yes, I want to learn more. We'll have our consolidations team reach out after your account is active. But you can always contact them later too. It's not something that's like you have to do it or there's a deadline. And then once you fill that out, then it's really important, guys, to come in and select beneficiaries. So for those of you who are new, this is where you'll do that. You'll say, yes, I want to name my beneficiaries. And your spouse is your primary by law. So you'll put their name and the 100% in here. If you don't want to select your spouse, then you need their permission. So that's called a spousal consent. There is a form for that, and they have to sign it, and you have to get it notarized by notary public. But it is something that we see a lot. So all sorts of family dynamics come into play here, and we see lots of spousal consent forms come through. Contingent beneficiaries would be next. So if your spouse and you both pass away, the contingent beneficiary is who inherits what's in your 401k. So some people name children. Children cannot directly inherit these assets, so it typically goes to a guardian's control. But some people also set up a trust so they can set some rules and boundaries around how that happens. It's really up to you who you name as your beneficiaries. Most important thing here is you name somebody, because if you leave it blank, the money goes to your estate, and then whomever you left behind has to go to probate court to get the money out. And that costs fees and time. So it's typically a hassle. And sometimes probate court doesn't name the same people that you would prefer as your beneficiaries. So you always want to be in charge of that. And you also want to keep it current. So for those of you already in the plan, I'll show you on the website where you go to add that information, because you guys are no longer doing paper for this. You're going to go to this spot now to set up the information. So once you do that, then you can go to the end of the process here, which asks you to enter in these last bits of data, and you can check off I confirm and enroll now. And then you'll be enrolled in the plan. And then you have to remember to go to Vista and enter that percentage. Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
Question. So is it just your children that aren't adults? Like if your child is an adult by then, they can be
You can
your
name them.
beneficiary,
Yep.
correct? Okay.
They can be
And
your
is it-
beneficiary. If you're still married and you have children who are adults, it still has to be your spouse. But
Okay.
if it is a child and you're not married, then you can, if you're not legally married, then you can name your child, your adult child, as the primary. Yep.
Is it 18 or 21?
I think it's 18.
Okay.
Yeah. And then download your enrollment details just to keep them for your files, but we have it all paperless. So we've kept all your information and your choices on file. Once you do that and Kelsey gets your information into our system, then you can come back to the website and register the way I showed you. And once you register, then you'll be able to get into your website. You can use your username and your password to log in. And for those of you already in the plan, this section here under my profile is where you're looking for that new link that you'll see that says update my beneficiary. So that's now been added. You can go to update my beneficiary and you'll see the same process that the new enrollees have for entering your data. Okay. Going forward also, if you're new to the plan, you don't have any money in there yet, you're not going to see this middle section populated yet because there's no money in there to measure your progress. So once your contributions start going in, then you can go to Let's Go and you can set up your goals around your retirement income. We can continue to track your progress here in the middle. We'll give you a score. Again, that score is going to represent how close you are to measuring to your goal and how much of your expenses you're positioned to cover right now in retirement. And then other spots you'll want to look at going forward under the Learn link, you'll have the My Learning Center, which has great information on financial wellness. It's not just retirement related, it also relates to lots of different financial health aspects. Under Quick Links, you've got a personal finance manager so that you can link up with bank accounts or credit card accounts or savings accounts you might have so that you can create a dashboard for all your financials. And we don't spy on this information. I've had a lot of people ask me, well, if I put a 529 in there, am I going to start getting ads from John Hancock about their 525? That's not how we use it. So all the information you put in to link to these accounts is encrypted. Our participant services group cannot mirror this page in your account. They can see other things in your account if you need help, but they can't see everything data-wise in this page. And you can't transact in those accounts from this page because we're not the custodian of the assets in there. But what we do is reach out and pull the current data in and take a snapshot. So it works a bit like Minted if you've used that, or I think it's eMoney is the other one that's popular. So really important, guys, again, if you're new to the plan, even though you set up your percentage through the John Hancock enrollment process, go to Vista and opt in for that percentage also. Make sure you're putting it in there because otherwise payroll won't know what you want to put in. The website portion is just so that you can document going forward what you want to be contributing and so that we can wrap that into all of your, your goal setting experiences and so forth. And all your investments can be viewed here in the future too. So that list that I showed you earlier is populated here also with all those links to the fund fact sheets and all the data on the plan. You've also got under review, if you go to plan notices, you've got that 404A5 listed right here. So that's that fund menu I showed you. It has some pretty important information also regarding your the fees on the plan. What does it cost you to participate? How often do we let you change your investments and so forth?